welcome to Academy of Tone 251. Yeah, and again with Manuel Bastian.
Hello.
Back to the 80s. This is my original jacket that I had, I was wearing in the 80s. Yeah, tiger stripe or whatever is Leppard. Okay, and we're talking, of course, about the Rockman. Def Leppard is the band that used the Rockman also a lot. Mm-hmm. You are the expert. You sent me a few songs. Which are the three main songs from the first album, right?
Not the first album. It's Hysteria. Hysteria. Yeah, it's pretty famous in the Rockman world.
Yeah,
because they used the X100.
And here we have an original one, which is. This is the Rockman as it came out. I had bought an original Rockman without the X100, which was just called the Rockman, back in 1982. And I was totally excited about the whole thing because you could put it on the strap and walk in the garden with the headphones. What a new experience. It had the clean tone, it had the chorus, it had a compressor. It was kind of a complete studio sound, ready to rock. I actually used it in the studio myself. But there's a longer story. Before we dive into that whole thing, I have to make a few announcements. First is this Friday for the local guys, the 14th of March, I play locally in Bel Etage Saarbrücken. Well, this is in another 48 hours maybe. It's a cool venue that I was doing all the New Year's Eve gigs in the past, and this has stopped for some reason, and I still play the venue this Friday. What else is important? Well, maybe I know already the guest for next week. It's Sean Atkins. We will do blues rock for those who are interested in that. But now let's go back to the 80s. I have another jacket here. And let's... Okay, I mean, you know, Leppard is...
That one's pretty red.
Yeah. Okay. These were the days where I still had special stage clothes. These days, now I have more or less my one shirt or my X shirt, depending on which amp I play, and I go straight from the office on stage. I just change my shoes. And here's another thing about the clothes we have to show you. It's the Schulterpolster. What is this?
Shoulder pads.
Shoulder pads, yeah. So this makes you Arnold Schwarzenegger-like. In case you have no muscles, you wear one of those, and then you are one of those cool guys. So, what about this jacket here? Bam. Well, I mean, this is still black, and black is classic, black and beautiful. So, with what is this, pearly?
Pearlite, yeah.
Yeah, a real pearlite, you know, and natural material, no plastic. Yeah, my stage clothes from back in the days. Modenschau.
Funny, now that you mentioned shoulder pads,
yeah.
I used to have a leather jacket with shoulder pads.
Really?
Yeah. And there was this American girl that came to our shows.
Yeah.
And she always told me, "You need to eat more, you're so skinny." And one day I was wearing this leather jacket and
she was impressed.
She told me, "You finally grown into yourself a little." And when I took the jacket off, she was disappointed.
Okay, yeah. Well, see, this is what the fake 80s. The 80s, I mean, I was, what was my age? 15 or so. I have a few pictures here, the forbidden pictures from the past, blast from the past. Lucas can. So this was Hollywood on top of some American can maybe let me know what kind of car that was. But you can see, I mean, dressed all in white and black shoes. I had my black and white face. And this was the time where I already had the white pickguard on my 61 Strat, but there's a picture from 1985 on stage with my black leather pants. And yeah, see that one. And probably the jacket that I was just wearing, or some kind of black jacket. And I had exchanged the white pickguard for a black one. I mean, just like Manuel, you know, this is the look. For me, it's the koala bear.
I used to have a white one on, but I went with this. It's a 79 hardtail, and I had this. That's actually a 79 pickguard. Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought, you know, let's make it period correct, except for the black covers, because I don't like those. Yeah.
I see the comments already. Everything was a little bit over the top in the 80s, yes. And looks a little bit like Dieter Bohlen. Yeah, I totally agree. Because Dieter is also a very 80s artist. And Sherry, Sherry Lady. I mean, how much more 80s can it be?
The answer is none, really.
Yeah. And then the sounds in the 80s, I remember... you know, there were all these organic 70s sounds. You know, we had Hammond organs, Deep Purple, and then with the synthesizer pop taking over, we had all these massive synthesizers everywhere. Mm-hmm. Also in rock music. I mean, this is like everybody had to have a keyboard player. We don't have the pictures with me playing keyboards, right? No, it's not here. Because I actually changed for keyboards for half a year to be cool. Yeah, I think we don't have it here. Next time. What is this? This is, actually, well, this is my keyboard from back in the days, which is a JX3P. And you can see my Van Halen sticker, because I was playing jump on the keyboard with the right hand, and then when the solo came I switched for the guitar, and also a few Gary Moore songs, Empty Rooms, mm-hmm. Empty Rooms, and then you could kind of freeze one chord, and the bass was changing the notes. You know, if you have like just two notes, it sounds pretty expensive. So this was a 3-piece band and me playing keyboards. I do have a few pictures somewhere. Unfortunately, I don't have them here. I have them upstairs. Me on the keyboards, because that's again another cosmetic experience. But anyway, so what else do we have picture-wise? We have. I think there's a Christopher Cross picture. This is me and Christopher Cross back in maybe '89. Young Thomas and young Christopher Cross. We are talking about sailing and what was Ride Like the Wind. Mm-hmm. I mean, all these kind of chords and the chord changes. That's, you know, like in the intro song. Mm-hmm. It's that major thing with the moving bass line and the is it ostinato kind of riff mm-hmm. in chords. Mm-hmm. You know, that's for every band used that ingredients.
And he played that solo, right, in that song?
Yeah. He is a great guitar player, actually. Yeah. I heard him play when he. This was probably at NAMM show. Okay, what else do we have picture-wise? Me in the studio, or a few for button. Okay, this is another great picture. You can see me in the leather pants with red sunglasses and, you know, the black and white theme. Maybe straight from Miami Vice. Yeah, this was the atmosphere. And bare feet, yeah, okay, why not? Yeah. So this was me back in the days in the studio. On top, I was playing a Lug guitar, and we can see the big tape machine. This is a 2-inch, 24-track, whatever, Studer or Otario, whatever these were called. On the top right, that's me with my maple neck Squier, 80s Squier. And we can actually see my Fender Princeton, which I already had back in the days. And then Mr. Powell and me in the sunglasses in the Farian studio on the left, and another picture in the same studio with a big SSL console, I guess, with a Paul Reed Smith guitar, something that I again sold after being an 80s guy, because the Paul Reed Smith was a good guitar, but for me it was lacking some of the character. And on the bottom you can see me with a blue shirt and Bernd Schneider, who was the technician with Jusen Kettner, sadly passed away, and we were working on some AS64 or some flagship spaceship, whatever, techno programmable guitar amp. This was the spirit. So I did experience, and I spent a lot of time in that 80s spirit.
I mean, I was born in 85.
Okay.
I only got the second half of the 80s.
Yeah, sure. The picture with me on that stage with the electric drums. This is exactly 85. I have seen it because this was an old picture, and I have on the back they did stamp. You know, when you had copies, and they put in whatever, and I saw 85. This is 85. So I was there, and you were born.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
But the 80s, I have the feeling the 80s lingered on
To
for
the 90s.
a little bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? I mean, I'm surprised that no one has a mustache in those pictures. Because all my family pictures from the 80s, everyone has a mustache.
I do have a few pictures of Gully, the guy who sings in Rock Anarchy. Is he somewhere here? And back in those days, he actually had a mustache. And this is when we played together, and then we split for 20 years or 25 years, and then we rejoined. And the concept was we just played what we remembered from the past, and what we didn't remember still doesn't exist up to today. So yeah, but it's all about fun. Okay, so you get the spirit of the 80s a little bit, and now
my uncle used to have a Power Strat,
okay.
Floyd Rose, and then those shark fin inlays.
Okay.
And of course the crackle.
Look,
crackle paint job.
Yeah. Like
and it was
Steve Vai and Satriani.
It was black with red crackles.
Yeah.
Looked awesome.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to find one. It was a Marathon Pro Series.
Okay.
Marathon. And I used to have one in white, which had like just paint splashes all over. Also had like a licensed Floyd Rose and EMG looking pickups. And it was actually not a bad guitar.
Yeah. But the thing is, back in those days, the colors were loud. I mean, my red sunglasses and things. I always tended to be the black and white more than the colors in red and stuff like that. Luckily, because when you look at those pictures today, it's even more hilarious. On the other hand, it was fun because everything was over the top. There was the drink called Blue Curacao, Curacao for the Germans, Curacao, and which was a blue liquid with whatever liquor, alcohol, not too strong, but definitely something to get headache from. Tons of sugar, and it looks like the stuff that you put in your car so your wipers don't freeze in winter.
I still remember in the 90s they poured that stuff on every ice cream cup.
Yeah.
Like every time you got something with whipped cream on it,
Yeah.
they put blue curacao over it.
Yeah, because the color. Yeah. So, drunk as teen, always in the 80s. Mick says, Mickey. Yeah. Chevelle Lava Crackle model. Yeah, that's probably one of the most famous guitars from back in the days. Apfelkorn. Apple corn. What is the English for corn? I mean, there's a band called Corn. Maybe corn is English.
Waka, waka.
Slush puppy, yes. Oh man. Schlumpfenpipi. Unbelievable shit.
Smurf pee.
So, yeah. And okay, back in those days, we also had very specific drum sounds, like the over-the-top gated reverb on snares.
Actually, I used to hate 80s music with a passion.
Yeah,
Because
it's plastic
hated,
fantastic.
You know, musically I come from the 70s,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it was organic.
Yeah.
You had like Deep Purple, you know,
Yeah.
Richie Blackmore
Yeah.
with a noisy strat and and a Hammond organ. And then it went to synthesizers and those overproduced
Productions.
studio productions.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that, and I think a lot of the 80s stuff that came back,
Yeah.
I don't know, at least for me, you might have a different perception, but it came back with those Netflix series,
Yeah, that's
Stranger Things and Dark,
Yeah.
and you know, like all of a sudden there was this 80s nostalgia.
Yeah, revival. And well, look at the whole thing. I think every era, every decade has its own vibe and spirit, and you can get excited about it or you can go fed up with it. I mean, just think about the 50s with the rockabilly and the petticoats and women not doing anything but cooking. I mean, the other day I was watching some advertising with my girlfriend about German Dr. Oetker. You know, the only thing was important in her life is, do I wear the right dress and do I cook the right meal and do we have a dessert for Peter?
Do you know Frauengold?
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, that's a women's drink.
It was liquor, basically, right?
Yeah, sure.
It was alcohol, but it was marketed as this drink for hysterical women.
Yeah, to calm them down.
Yeah, and
basically,
like the ads on TV, they were so demeaning towards women.
I mean, it's in today's perspective, you know, totally strange. But this is, I'm lucky, or we can be lucky that these days are over and that we have evolved to, you know, another level in relationships and everything. I mean, maybe nobody is perfect, and men are not perfect, and women are not perfect, and now we can have sometimes we men have to be, fight for our rights again, because but hey, this is all good. We are on a completely different level now, and when we think about the 60s, like my parents, big time, when I was produced, physically produced, not musically. Anyway, I remember things from a very young age. Like one of my first memories about music was some tape machine in the car of my parents with a real tape. My father was at university, so he had a UHA tape, real quarter-inch tape or whatever that was, and then there was some Elvis on it, and the hits from the 60s.
So a proper reel-to-reel.
Yeah, reel-to-reel, killer. So that was a different vibe. Then the 70s, when everybody had a stereo system from Japan with the silver, whatever, Kenwood, Sony, you name it, and it was all silver, and also when you watch television, the American cars were huge. They had those, whatever, 50 liters per 1 hour, the streets of San Francisco. Yeah, and the guy with a lolly, and then in German, entzückend, Baby, landest auf dem Müll. I don't know. Killer. All those phrases, the spirit of that. And so this was kind of 70s. And then in the 80s, I remember when synthesizers came to the music. Of course, they did appear in avant-garde music, also in maybe even in the 60s with the first ones. And Kraftwerk. This was early Autobahn.
60s even.
60s even. So I remember when Kraftwerk was the thing, which is kind of a predecessor of techno, basically. And then then we had Genesis and all these 70s huge band, and Toto, CS80 and Oberheim and sequential circuits, Prophet 5 and whatever, modular systems,
and the Mini Moog in the 70s.
Mini Moog, Poly Moog, and the whole 9 yards of synthesizers. And then in the 80s, you had to have that synthesizer, and that the guitars were still alive, but they had their little spot to be like, oh, I'm the credible guy in the band. The keyboard player was that Duran hair, whatever, with the poodle hairdress guy. and so were the guitar players, hair metal, a lot of hairspray, and the keyboard players had like huge racks of synthesizers, and how many keyboards, one here, one there, and one there, and then they did it this way and that way. So, and the guitar players, they went for a new position in the band. The singer was most important, of course, in the pop music, but there was also a guitar player, and even the guitar bands like Def Leppard and them, they all had to sound modern. And then there was Tom Scholz of Boston, the famous band Boston More Than a Feeling, and some other songs. that was not only a guitar player but also an engineer, and he had a signature tone, and he came out with the Rockman. The Rockman. I mean, Rockman means there was a Discman. No, there was even
The Walkman.
the Walkman.
Yeah, it's a great play of words.
Yeah.
You know, the Walkman and the Rockman.
Yeah, the Walkman was a cassette player. I mean, this was pre-CD. So we are talking about real cassettes, and this has about the same format as a cassette, because those old cassettes had maybe this kind of space, like from, yeah.
Yeah, and for those who've never seen a Rockman,
Yeah, just...
that's about all the controls you have, you know. There's your headphone outs, so you can play guitar with a friend, connect 2 pairs of headphones. That's your guitar or keyboard input. That's your on-off switch. That's the volume switch, which has 3 positions.
Yeah.
And talking about dedication to 80s sounds, you can turn the chorus off, but then you are stuck with a shitty reverb sounding delay.
Yeah.
Or you can turn the delay off and then you're stuck with the chorus. And in the middle you have both of them.
Yeah, this is they didn't have a reverb back then, because this is basically pre-digital. In today's world, everything is digital, and there's a lot of digital processing power to do delays and anything. This is still, I don't know exactly if it's a bucket bridge delay or what it is.
I think it is. Yeah, it's a bucket brigade circuit. You know, the stuff that was available back then, but it is already stereo. I mean, stereo. You know, and that's really the thing why Tom Scholz went for the chorus. I think he tried to make the guitar huge in the stereo field, and you can do that with like short delays or with chorus, which is more or less the same thing, right?
Yeah, and even guys like Eddie Van Halen, famous for the early sounds, which was recorded back in '78 or late '70s, with no chorus. I mean, it's like the guitar and then a plate reverb on the other side to spread it a little bit, and then in the '80s he also turned into whatever, an eventide pitch chorus style sound.
Yeah, everyone had those huge racks.
Yeah,
in the '80s.
Fridge. Yeah, with hundreds.
And that's, you know, like for Tom Scholz to put out something like that.
Replacing
a fridge of
gear,
super expensive gear.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff was really expensive back then, even. You know, and it was
affordable. At least I could afford it. I have no idea how much it was back in the days when.
Take a look at this.
The original box. Mint condition.
He has the box. It's the original box this thing came in.
Yeah.
And check this out. It came.
We have
with original Rockman headphones.
Yeah, the complete package.
Yeah, even with the logo on it.
Yeah. Scholz Research Design. Yeah. And here is the manual with all the applications. Very properly done. A limited warranty. Yeah. And then explaining it. And this thing also holds 8 batteries. So there's a battery compartment on the lower side of this. And you put in your whatever AAA batteries. A whole bunch of
double A batteries.
Yeah, okay, yeah, the bit bigger ones.
Yeah.
And and then you could walk around the garden, which I did, and be a rock star in stereo.
And the batteries last pretty long because, you know, there's nothing digital in it.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of them. I think it's 8.
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
it's eight batteries.
Yeah. So, I mean, very, very innovative. The basic idea is simple, but it's great. It's like Tom Scholz, as a guitar player, knew what was hot at the time as sounds. He knew you needed a pristine, clean sound with compressor and chorus and stuff like that. And he knew what overdrive is. Huh?
I mean, there are 4 sounds in this thing, which you can't edit in any way.
Changed. It's
no EQ, nothing.
Yeah.
You are stuck with those 4 sounds. And there's clean 2 and clean 1.
Yeah.
In the manual it says high sustain clean.
Yeah, okay.
Then there's the edge setting. It says subtle overdrive.
Subtle, okay.
And the distortion, it says high energy overdrive. And for the volume setting, it says loud, louder, blast off.
Okay, we see no prisoners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
80s mentality.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Designed by a musician who has a lot of electronic background. I think he worked for another company also as a
Polaroid.
Polaroid. Yeah.
He's an MIT guy.
See, proper university trained, and this product was the bomb. I know when it came out, it's like, wow, now I can actually sound like those guys in the States. I mean, this is the perspective here in Germany. I did even have a Mesa Boogie back then. No, not at the time. Sorry. It was just that phase where I was having a few amps, but not all of them. And then you had that studio tool that you could be one of them. Mm-hmm. If you bought a Rockman, you are one of those great studio guys. And I actually did some studio recordings, as we could see in the pictures, in my very early days. And this was the tool. So this was the entrance card. It's like, you know, I have the same thing like the guys in LA.
It's funny. I mean, I don't think that Tom Scholz had anticipated that someone would actually use this in the studio, you know, and record it straight to tape. I think he built this as a practice tool, basically, and then it became its own thing, you know?
Maybe, yeah.
And then he developed all the rack gear and all that stuff.
The more professional versions.
But it really started with this.
Yeah, this was a huge hit. And somebody writes in the comments, the power soak was the other thing. Mm-hmm. He invented the power soak. Mm-hmm. At least he made it popular. Maybe somebody else did that before, but he came up with a big resistor with a heat dissipation and to tame your Marshalls. Yeah. And he understood the phenomena that were happening in his Marshalls.
Which is funny when you think about the Rockman sound, which is mid-heavy and compressed. That's what happens when you plug your Marshall into a huge resistive load.
Yeah, sure.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. It's all compressed. It's all that sound. And yeah, so he had that sound. Another comment here is Nobels Studio 1 was a German copy of the Rockman. Yep.
Which was so good that it ended Nobels.
Yeah, it ended the company. But Nobels is back with this ODR 1 and ODR Mini, and I have an ODR 5 as well. So, but I think they had copyright strikes.
Daniel, Gold Rush Music.
Yeah.
Hello. Daniel.
Hi.
He actually gave me a Nobels Sound Studio 1X as a gift.
Oh, cool.
And he is recording an 80s album right now. great songs.
Okay.
With synthes and like the full
9 yards
80s experience.
Yeah, full.
And he uses the Nobels sound studio for his guitar sounds, and it sounds great.
Yeah.
Killer sound.
So, some people argue if this or the Nobels sounds better, but that's we have here a vintage one, and now we have the new pedal, which is done by MXR, and this pedal,
guy.
yeah, this goes straight into the, let's say, PA, or we have our mixing console here that goes straight into the live stream setup, so there is no guitar amp actually involved. It's Manuel simply plays guitar into Rockman and then straight into the interface, audio interface. Everything is flat.
Shall we listen to it for a little bit?
Yeah. One thing, I have to unmute you because there's a little noise coming from all this goodness. Listen to the noise first. There's the noise. Sometimes there's a crackle too, but this is maybe not noise. But here,
it's old.
It's old, yeah.
It's barely hanging in there.
Yeah.
So,
where shall we start?
the 4 sounds in this thing. This is Clean 2, which is the famous
Hi-fi.
Rockman hi-fi clean sound, and it's it doesn't have a filter on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a DI guitar straight into the console. Real classy, you know, that's
Yeah. So that's the sound. Maybe we can switch off the chorus for, or let's see what makes that sound.
okay. Chorus off.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound half as romantic.
Yeah, but it already has a very typical frequency range. Studio. It's like straight into a mixing console, clean.
Yeah. It's actually a great sound when you turn the chorus off for some. For some 90s funk stuff. Yeah.
Prince and Co.
Yeah, exactly.
So, then we have...
Let's turn the chorus back on.
Yeah.
Then we have Clean 1.
Clean 1, yeah.
Which is
a bit warmer.
The filtered sound.
Yeah.
So now it's guitar amp simulation territory. So it sounds like this. Ear piercing.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe with a different guitar we can have one of those humbucker guitars, and the thing is, we said everything needs to be over the top in a way, and humbuckers, you know, so you get a clean sound out of humbucker. Yeah. So then we have the overdrive number 1.
Yeah, then that's the edge setting, and edge was supposed to be the cleaner distortion sound, which you can supposedly roll your volume back and get a clean sound, but nah. Maybe if you have a treble bleed in your guitar.
I do, but I still
too much compression for. Yeah, but you know, on the bridge pickup, it sounds like this. But I'm wearing this shirt for a reason.
Brian Adams.
Because when you put it in the middle and bridge position, and put it on the edge setting,
it's that sound,
right?
It's exactly that sound.
Instantly, you know, and that's what I love about the Rockman. I mean, those are those 4 sounds, and you plug it in, and that's what you get.
Yeah, iconic sounds. And no prisoners.
I mean. Great sound. I think that was played either on Edge with humbuckers.
Yeah.
I have to switch to distortion with single coils. So that's a distortion sound.
Yeah, Def Leppard.
Yeah, and it's...
That sounded exactly like that.
Yeah.
So, can you play the same thing with a humbucker guitar?
I can try.
Yep.
So what do I do?
Well, nothing. Just this bridge.
Okay. That's a lot more convincing.
Try this. Yeah. So for me, I mean, the good thing about this is it's that iconic Rockman sound and it's studio ready at the same quality level. The downside of it is almost any guitar sounds the same, in my opinion. And okay, maybe I'm a nerd, maybe you do hear a lot of difference.
335 sounds lovely.
Yeah, sure. Because it looks lovely. I think the cosmetics is half of the game. And what I'm trying to say here is I sold my Rockman because after 2 years I sounded exactly like those studio cats, and then you heard the same guitar sound all over any production, and I was not special anymore. It was special at the beginning, and then it was everywhere. It was over the top, and then it lost the magic. The sound never changed. It's still here.
I mean, for me, this is pure nostalgia.
Sure.
Right? For you, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
For me, that sound you are talking about was the rectifier.
Yeah, in your generation.
Yeah.
Everybody went for the rectifier.
Everyone went for the rectifier
and all
sounds.
bands sounded the same in the end.
And sounded... I mean, I love the music from that period still.
Yeah.
But production-wise, I think the guitar used to have like that. When you take that frequency range, you know,
it's in the middle.
In the middle,
and you put it lower.
You take the rectifier and it goes like this.
Yeah,
and that's why drums, like the cymbals,
have no chance.
They sound like shit on those productions because they have those really.
There's no room for them anymore. And see, this is, I call maybe both amps, this and the rectifier, processed amps in a way. And I can maybe demonstrate what I mean by that. I can use that guitar or my guitar, doesn't matter. I just use my guitar because it's plugged into my amp. But how to get to a Rockman sound with an amp 1, the first thing is I go through all the steps so you can maybe get a feel for what is happening to a sound. Let me go for the classic channel. So this is more or less what I would use as a sound. I just styled it in to match your sound for the intro song. I personally have less mids, but as you have so many mids, I have to have a bit more mids this time too. So. That is the sound of amp 1 in classic channel, but already with the tone all the way up. So most of the guys hate it, but to get towards that sound, I go back all the way for counterclockwise to have it woody. I mean, if you come from this kind of freshness, you miss that. So I go all the way up on the tone on the classic channel to get that zizzle. Okay, but that's only half of it. The next thing is I have to get rid of all the bass, and I have to be super careful with the high end. And then I better not use the blue box with a real Marshall cabinet. I better go direct out of this here. And I have, wait a minute, switch that off. So this is the direct out with no compensation. Okay. And then I need an extra mid or
So now you have the same noise as me.
yeah, sure. Totally different sounds. So, and with that sound, I think we can hear more guitar differences. Why? Because that crazy filtering kind of focuses all the frequencies coming from the guitar to the mid-range and taking away some information by doing that. But the reason for doing that is focused mids. And the same thing in the post EQing gives you a very specific focused sound that simply works.
Yeah, I mean that's what Michael Schenker did, you know, with his wah, fixed position. You know, you make yourself heard in the mix.
Yeah,
when you
cut through. And so what I'm trying to say is it is a very, very specific sound that is based on a recipe of combining a few factors. And one way is simply get one of those and you're there. The other way is getting a lot of equipment to get there if you want that tone. Now back to me being the maybe I don't like it that much. I did like it very much at the beginning, but then I could see, like, you know, my sword that was Excalibur at the beginning, oh, I'm the winner here, became a little bit like, nothing happens. And then I sold the Rockman. It's like, okay, maybe we can have a different sound. I experienced after 2 years. Because I always offered a variety of sounds. I had different amps, I had different pedals or tricks like that, and then whatever the producer was preferring. And there was a time where people were like almost fed up with the Rockman. As huge
I can
as
see
as the trend was. And then, you know, if it goes like that, it goes, you know, it's a sine wave. It goes up and down.
It's a character sound, you know, and like character sounds always polarize, you know. And you have the guys who hate it, and you have the guys who love it dearly.
Yeah.
And
just think back if the fashion would go back to whatever the 50s and everybody would have petticoats, or the girls, you would go, I'm not so sure about that. If you do a new version of that, it's probably totally cool. And that's the thing about creating a trend or a fashion, which I think is exciting. So it's always worth to understand, and it's exciting to dive into that era, live with it, get the spirit, and then maybe come up with an idea. What can I do in this direction, but make it up to date? That and basically, if we are listening to more modern metal music, that curve is not far from from metal. You know, I mean, it's such an.
But that's like even in metal, you know, it used to be the V
that.
shape, you know, and now it's the other way around.
Of course, yeah.
And for me, I mean, I used to be a metal guy. Then I
became a vintage guy.
I became a vintage guy. I wasn't listening to metal for a few years, and then all of a sudden you could hear mids in the guitar, in the metal mix. You know, like I think nowadays they stray away from rectifiers. Because it used to be the rectifier sound back in the day. It was
a typical Hey, we have Mario Stracuzzi in the chat, and he says use 800 at full. Look at this, 800 is almost at full. 400 at 3/4, it's in the middle, you know. And we basically have his curve without. Can we show it? So see this, the highest setting here is the 800. Here it's 800, and then this 400. So we are pretty close to where he is setting it. And Mario actually has recorded a CD, the rock. What is it called? The Rockman.
It's on YouTube even. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. Okay.
But it sounds great.
And by the way, me giving you the rant about the sound, even ZZ Top was using it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we are talking Pearly Gates, a 59 Les Paul played through a Rockman. Well, back in the 80s, who cared? Because it was still cool.
Lucas, can you look it up?
Yeah, maybe Lucas can. You know what?
Retrospective.
Are you still? Retrospective, yeah.
It's that sound, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even ZZ Top played with chorus
See?
in the 80s.
Yeah.
And used drum machines.
Exactly. And they wrote fantastic songs. I still love, you know, all that stuff that they wrote. And again, that's something that I admire at these bands. They were traditional blues rock bands. I just get rid of the noise.
Thank you.
They were traditional blues rock bands, and the purists probably go, "Oh, this is not the Blue Jeans Blues and the Pearly Gates," but they wrote great music, and they had a big audience. I think ZZ Top was the biggest in the 80s.
They were bigger in the 80s than in the 70s.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
You know, I mean,
and I mean, it was the whole MTV thing. You know, they
yeah,
had those
with the cars,
outrageous videos.
I mean, all these hot rod cars and the girls and the key. They had this kind of, here's my car key.
we should have some girls here in the studio.
Yeah, with mini skirts.
We're in Saarbrücken. We should get some girls and play some Def Leppard songs.
Yeah. So, you know, there's so many aspects to the whole thing, and I'm Afterburner. Yeah. Yeah, MTV. Again, another trend. Looking at the music industry, Queen made another revolution after the 70s with you know, Night at the Opera and all these huge bombastic works. They had Radio Gaga, you know, very electronic. You know, and Radio
and chorus as well.
Yeah, but I remember these the videos, how strong the image and the sounds were, and we are also talking drum machines. I mean, you know, a totally different approach. Me, having been in that era, I have produced an album, 21st Century Guitar, based on a totally different era of sounds, which was more house. House is the reincarnation of the 70s disco. When 70s disco came along, in the 90s, probably 2000s, they reinvented disco as house. It's the same shit like disco, but a little bit more electronic. And I like that kind of flavor and combined that with the guitar. And ZZ Top did the thing with the blues and the 80s sound. And so I'm all about experimenting with strong ingredients. And that's what we have here. What we probably could do is make a little comparison of the original Rockman
with the new version.
With the new version. So what's going on in the pedal? First, from the features, we don't have any reverb or delay, right?
No, it's the only effect on it is the chorus, which you can turn off if you wanted to, but who's gonna do that, right?
Yeah, and to compensate that, under the box, under the beautiful Rockman box, we have a Digitech pedal that gives us the lexicon reverb in the pedal, which was a big thing back in the. It's all lexicon.
I've set it to the room setting.
Okay, whatever.
To
okay, wait a minute. I have to switch you on. No. Or you want your guitar?
No.
Yeah, that helps. Input does help.
Yeah.
This is a heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, how many kilograms? 4.5?
I don't know, but I save money at the gym that way.
Yeah, but you can save the money for later for a spine surgery.
So, as you can hear, it sounds totally different from
the original,
the old
Yeah.
X100. Way less treble, way more bass, right?
It's bypass.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, bypass is less trouble, sure.
So one thing I have to bitch about is the foot switch.
Okay.
Because for me, this thing is intended to be played into a console.
Right.
Why would you need an on-off switch?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
That's
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, for me, if I wanted to use this thing live, I would love to choose between two
Overdrive,
sounds.
Yeah, or two sounds.
If you could choose two sounds and
toggle,
switch between them.
Yeah,
that would have been a better concept. Because people, I don't know if anyone used to play a Rockman into a guitar amp. I think some people did, but I've seen a few videos.
And it's not good.
It's not my sound.
And I can explain why. Because this already has a lot of EQing going on. And if you put it through an extra guitar amp, there's extra high-end EQing. The EQ curve of a traditional clean channel is usually a high-frequency boost. And there is already some high-frequency boost. And it's over. I mean, this is 80s over anyhow, and then it's double over, and that's it's actually hard to compensate it, and that's why a traditional flat input is healthy combination, because this is doing 100% of the tone already, and then if you have something else coloring it again, it's over. It hurts. I mean, it's too much. And it's over the top in a not so nice way.
And that's,
it loses quality.
Like that thing was a headphone or straight into the board thing.
Yeah.
So is this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that foot switch as an on-off switch, I mean, come on, doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. We can try later with the amp just to hear it, but let's compare the two.
You can plug in a foot switch here to cycle through those channels.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense if you want to go from
number 1
clean
to 4.
You have to, not cool.
Okay, you're
Another
on bitch
thing,
mode.
Yeah, I'm in total bitch mode. Another thing is why
only one stereo
it's a stereo pedal.
Yeah.
When you get it, you have to unscrew the backplate. There's a switch in it which says mono and stereo.
Okay.
And then you need a stereo, a tip ring sleeve cable to two mono cables. Why didn't they give us
two
output checks?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, but okay. End of bitch mode. Let's turn it on this time.
Yeah.
And clean 2.
Can we have the same
Yes.
kind of sound on this one and then just try to A/B it, switch it on? Yeah, this is way more silver high end.
I mean, you have to decide which one sounds prettier to you.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
for me, this one is the pocket version is definitely the more special version with the more, you know, uniqueness. The other one is a nice, clean sound. It's not as extremely filtered in the way or processed in the way the other one is.
For me, it's like this. When you don't compare them, when I played through that sound just now,
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
like everything's there. I mean, it's hi-fi enough not to be a usual clean sound.
Of course, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not as brittle
Yeah.
as this one.
Yeah.
This one
It's really
can hurt your
yeah,
ears
yeah.
a little bit.
But it has a special quality to it that is so unique.
Yeah.
That's a quality by itself.
And I don't know what it does in a mix, you know? In a mix, this one might propel better than
Yeah.
this one. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's clean
That's-
2,
Okay.
clean 1.
To me, that's a little harsh.
Yeah.
Let's try it with
The humbucker guitar.
with the smoothest humbucker in the house. You know, just to see how that works. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
But it is on the edge of hurting.
So, at least for the clean sounds, I almost like that one better.
Yeah, in that
because
position.
they
Yeah,
are
yeah.
just too harsh.
Yeah.
You know, in a mix, that might be a different thing.
Yeah. But yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
But, you want to go back for the Strat or you want to play here?
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So if we do the Bryan Adams thing again,
Yeah.
bridge in the
Number
middle.
2. Yeah.
The cool thing with this pedal is you have the input gain on a slider. You can just go like rip
Uh-huh.
and turn up the gain.
Yeah.
On the old one,
Yeah, it's that.
there's this little blue
Custom control, we call it at BluGuitar.
Yeah, but can you turn that with your fingers? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just crank up the gain all the way. I mean, you lose some treble content when you boost the gain.
Sure.
You know, it gets more mid-heavy.
Yeah.
But that's what it actually says in the manual for the old one. When you turn up the gain on the back.
Yeah, you have also more. It is treble bleeds, I guess. It's not only gain.
So. Same thing with the old one.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, I see the question. We are going direct into the board. Anything that we are using here, all the Rockmans going straight into the board. No guitar amp, no amp one involved. We had the amp one just to show you a regular guitar amp and how that would try to sound like a Rockman. But a Rockman is a Rockman.
Let's try the distortion sound with humbuckers.
Ah, okay.
Because I see people complaining that a Gibson sounds always better.
Yeah, you get this.
Which is totally not true. Only in some specific cases. Okay.
Hello, anybody out there? So now for the old one. Yeah.
Funny. Which one do you like better now?
Well, I have a few sounds that I like on the original because they have more character. Mm-hmm. And then I have a few sounds I just don't like the noise. Sorry. that kills me. But there is something about a pedal as well. But generally, okay, I would say I like the original O1 better because it's so much more to that original character. And, it's like it has the acid and the aggression to the max. And that's part of that sound. And therefore, I would probably go for the old one.
When we were sound checking earlier, we both preferred
That
the
one.
old one.
Yeah.
Because we were playing with that tight
Backing track.
synth
Yeah.
backing track.
Yeah.
And this one just cuts through the mix better.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, this one
It's more.
sounds prettier, I think, on its own, and it kind of, I mean, it does the Rockman thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
It's not something totally different.
It doesn't go to the extreme.
Yeah,
But
it's a little, maybe a little
mellower.
prettier
Yeah.
sounding and more modern version with a totally failed concept
Of a switch. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, when I got it, I played with it for hours, and I had fun. You know, it was, and I mean, I own an X100. I own a soloist.
Yeah. You have the whole.
Bass Rockman, the sustainer, stereo, chorus,
Yeah, yeah.
delay thing.
In
You
your
know, I
studio,
know
yeah.
those sounds, and
Yeah. You found them.
I didn't plug in and thought, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
You know, I played with it for hours, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's modern made, readily available,
Yeah.
made out of metal and not
Yeah.
plastic.
Yeah. And it's not. I mean, the old one is making this, and on the other channel, it's already.
Yeah.
There's some of the transistors or capacitors start to get so old that they get live noise.
Do they actually sound thinner when they're old? Because this is in its original state, and I was wondering, does this one have much less bass
Than it was back in the days.
Yeah.
Probably yes, because the capacitors, they lose a part of the capacitance over the year. There's an electrolyte fluid inside, and what happens is we know it from the tube amps also, like in the power supplies. This is why the Vox started to hum, and also it's a chemical process, and the more the capacitance shrinks, the less bass gets to the amp, which makes this effect even stronger. So maybe the Rockman was sounding a little bit bigger back in the days when it was new.
So maybe this is not a fair comparison then by any means, because this is, I mean, you know.
Yeah, but this, again, that's the thing. If you like that better, it's like the vintage guitars.
Yeah.
Maybe my 61 Strat didn't sound as good as it sounds now because it's aged over the years, sonically aged. And maybe it was a good guitar back then. And we can buy modern guitars that sound great, but who knows how they do sound in 50 years.
Yeah.
Maybe they are super killers, you know, and you don't know. But for me, I personally would choose the pocket version, because if I would dare to go into this territory again, then I would make the full statement, and with all the, let's say, beauty and ugliness there is with it. To do it halfway, I'm not a fan of that. It's like after my experience with the Rockman and my bad experience with the overdone Rockman sounds, I was so desperate for organic sounds. If you analyze the music of a lot of guitar players in the 80s, everything was processed. Even Michael Landau albums were processed in a nice way. I'm not saying that they are ugly over processed in a way. No, they were processed in a nice way. But I can tell, somebody was tweaking on the snare drum for hours to get that silver sparkle high end of the snare, and then and place everything at a certain thing and clean the mix. Owner of a Lonely Heart. Doom, 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 doom. This is a totally different way. And then there was a phase that came afterwards where everybody was like, you know what, guys, this is sterile. This is so clean, as exciting as it was. Donald Fagen, Nightfly. I mean, Steely Dan is another band that has studio recordings top-notch in every decade. In the 70s, they have the top-notch 70s sound, and the Donald Fagen solo album, Nightfly, is so 80s clean, and it is produced to be on a CD. Don't use anything else again. It is like, as Owner of Lonely Heart by, yes, a Trevor Horn production. But then, even Trevor Horn, when he produced Seal, for instance, 10 years later, he wanted to have woodiness back. He wanted to have a few frequencies that he definitely would kill 10 years before. It's like, oh, 300 hertz, we don't want that. This is all mud. We just want this and this and this. And so, there's a different time period, there's a different aesthetics in the time, there's a different mentality to deal with things, and
different drugs as well.
Yeah, different drugs.
I mean, 80s was the cocaine.
Yeah, everybody
period.
Was spark.
Yeah. And that might be a reason why that stuff is so overproduced, you know, because they just weren't getting tired in the studio.
You mean they mixed the same track for 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Without sleeping much. Yeah, that's maybe a reason for that. And the Beatles just recorded the whole album in a day and did the mix the next day.
I mean, the 80s was excess, right? It was bigger, better.
Yeah.
And that you can hear that in the sound. Another thing just crossed my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, in the 80s, people were still recording to tape.
Sure. Yeah.
And
that
when you record to tape, you have to, if you want to hear the exact same thing after you recorded it, you have to
exaggerate it.
Shoot a lot more treble.
Yeah, into the
tape machine.
Because when it plays back, it's smoothened in a way, and they were already wanting more. This is the 80s. In the 70s, they also want something, but they were not into the, cocaine over the top. I want more. Let's be the vacuum cleaner and see if there's something left. I was lending some of my amps into the studio that you have seen, the Farian studio, and to other famous guitar bands when they came from internationally to record, and I had already some of my amps, and I could see traces of white powder. I had to clean my amps afterwards.
I mean, cocaine is still around.
Yes, but
I was playing a wedding, like at church, in the Saarland region.
Okay, yeah, here.
And I was offered a line of cocaine in church, which I declined, of course.
Well, of course. There's many ways to get excited.
But have you ever watched Van Halen Live Without a Net, 1986?
Yeah, this was
in New Haven.
Oh, fuck yeah, yeah.
I mean, now I know what was going on.
Yeah.
But when I've seen it for the first time, it was crazy how they could
stay
hold
that level.
Energy level.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I mean, good Stevie Ray Vaughan, he was nearly dead by taking so many drugs. What I read was cocaine mixed with some alcohol. What was it? Bourbon or some, and all these great guys. They boosted themselves over the top in a way, and they paid their price for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
But excess.
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and In Excess, a band, and the singer killed himself. Is it healthy? It's, we are lucky we don't have teenagers listen too much here. So don't, if you do drugs, start with coffee.
Choose your drugs wisely.
Yeah.
Coffee is not for me. I'm too jittery already, I want the stuff that
This is
slows you down.
Yeah, and it's like I can drink 2 coffees, but then I start to get nervous too. And for instance, Julian, our technician, he cannot drink any coffee in the afternoon anymore because then he's still awake, like having cocaine at night. He can't sleep, and now he is super happy because he has some rest before 12 even, and he comes into the office so early and has so much power. That's the trade-off. I mean, artificial energy versus real energy.
Yeah.
And this is like okay.
Artificial sound versus real sound.
Yeah. So, and yeah, there's a beauty about everything, but you should know not to overdo things.
Yeah.
And therefore, maybe that sums it up with the Rockman. It is such an artificial, beautiful sound. If you use it wisely, it's a great spice. And then in today's context,
I wouldn't record that if somebody sent me a song that wasn't like totally 80s. I wouldn't put that stuff on
record.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want, for me, it was always the point that I thought it sounds more like Rockman than my guitar. Mm-hmm. And I discovered after that phase, my Vox AC30, for instance, or some of these organic sounds, and I could excite people with that. So I had producers that told me, you got a great sound. Mm-hmm. And
the Vox always did that with people, for me as well.
Yeah. Especially when you
Strat and an AC30.
Yeah. And Tele or Strat with an AC30, and especially with the chords, which is the rhythm guitars sections of a record. If you are a session guy, it's even more important. And of course, then you play the nice notes afterwards. But once you have laid down the rhythm tracks, you are already their friend or not. And if the rhythm tracks are kind of stuffed and but a Vox, for instance, has this nice high end in the mix and makes actually the production sound better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
polished in a way.
Yeah. And this gives you as a guitar player in the studio extra credit points because, wow, with this guy my production sounds better. Mm-hmm. And this gave me the next recommendation and the next job and the next job.
The thing for me with the Rockman is, I was living in an analog studio, and what I realized back then was how important authentic sounds are, mm-hmm. And that's why I bought my Fender Bandmaster and my first Plexi, and that's why I collected all those amps, because I know when you want to go for that sound, that's what you need. And same with the Rockman. If you want that overproduced 80s sound, get a Rockman, because it just takes you there. You plug your cable in, guitar straight in, bam, there's your sound in ultra wide stereo, and
exactly like it used to be, and it's still there. And
I even got a Yamaha DX7.
Yeah, I still have mine.
A couple months ago, because
you should get mine, because
it sounds great.
Yeah.
When you want those Whitney Houston,
it is the same
electric piano sounds.
And I try to get the DX7 straight from plugins, in the software, and it's not the same thing. And I thought about it. Why is not the same thing? Because I think they have only 12-bit digital to analog converters.
Yeah.
So the lousy converter adds some extra character. And whatever it is, it's magic. And if that's the sound, if that's the noise, you have the original thing, you have that noise, and then it's instant. It's you just play. And yeah, I totally understand. And that's why I do have different guitars and different amps and different pedals, because all of them offer a very specific character. And yeah, I can get excited about also weird things. That would be another episode. I have an electric sitar, for instance, and this was
on my bucket list, by the way.
Yeah,
I want one as well.
I can borrow you mine for a while, because I have no studio gigs these days where I would use it, but it's on my first solo record. It starts with that thing, and I used it in the studio also for a few things, because what is this? You know, it's kind of wow. If you don't overdo it.
I tried to mimic that sound by. I was using a tuning Creed used to use a lot, which is a D-A-D-A-D-D.
Yeah, okay.
So you have that kind of chorusing sitar effect with those two high strings.
Yeah.
And then I put an old MXR flanger on. The old gray one with the mains power cable. Yeah.
I mean, with this sitar thing, it's the bridge that has an extra thing that makes that snarly noise or whatever, and it's basically the bridge. The rest of the guitar is I have a, what is it, choral? It's a choral
sitar,
yeah, and it's a plastic thing. It makes sense. The whole thing works as it is, but I believe it's the main thing is that extra bridge. But all of this were tools for my session jobs.
Yeah.
You know, and then if somebody needed that color or that color, I was using whatever was needed.
That's what that is, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, you wouldn't sell your 61 Strat and play the sitar on every gig, you know. Oh, that's not my sound. That's not my sound. But you have to look at this in the same way. I think it's
Absolutely.
a tool if you want that sound. Unless I'm playing a 80s gig where we only play 80s stuff,
Then it would be
cool.
Yeah.
You know, for any other scenario, I'll take my amp1 and be a happy guy. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
There's one thing we announced the whole episode also as Q&A. We didn't have any questions so far because we talk too much. So if you do have questions now is the time, because otherwise we will still sit here at 3 hours. I kept asking. He finally told me a Chevelle. Okay, where does it connect to? I think 80s and Chevelle goes together. It must be the answer to a. Is this the guitar with the crackle paint job?
I think he's talking about Van Halen. I saw Van Halen first show in Chicago. What a show. I think that was 1978. I forgot who they opened for. Eddie had his back turned all night. Yeah, that's like...
Yeah, not showing his tapping secrets. Yeah, which then become another thing of the 80s.
And he had the bomb, you know?
Yeah. With
the echoes in it.
Yeah.
Tape echoes.
So, do you think AmpX will be able to deliver decent Rockman sounds? Well, if I want to. On my list, I have other amps and pedals as a priority. So, if I get bored, I can do a Rockman thing. As we can see, I understand the recipe and of course, it's easy to do. I don't put it as a priority. I know first comes my Vox and stuff that I already have done, my Marshalls and some Fenders and things that are, I assume, needed by a very wide audience. If everybody screams, I want that Rockman, I will do it. I can do it when I'm bored, but we are so busy with other things. So that's...
If you want that Rockman sound and have something that can load impulse responses, there are tons of Rockman distortion and edge impulse responses.
Yeah.
And
that bring you already there.
I actually used line 6 HX Stomp, a Helix, and put in that Rockman impulse response and just played like a Marshall Plexi model into it, and it's pretty much that sound. When you add a chorus,
you get there.
You get there pretty easily.
Mario wants to do a patch. Yeah, I mean, Mario, I have a lot of people who have experience by with sounds that they are using, and they offered to do patches. Thank you, Mario, by the way. But the first thing is, I will offer sought after standard amps, and then I will slowly grow the collection, and we can fake a sound, as we just showed with the whatever EQ and whatever in front of an amp one. We can fake a sound with existing gear, let's call it that way. But to do 100% proper model of something, it's also possible, but that's a job that we have to do, because we have access to parameters that nobody else has. And we don't give this access to other people because you would not understand, it's too complex. And you could create settings that would be self-oscillating and maybe even destroy things. So that's why, unfortunately, we don't give you everything, and for a good reason. Trust me, it's like, we are happy that we can master what we are doing. And if we have other people working on real sounds, on creating amps, recreating amps, for instance, they have to study our platform. Okay, please finish AmpX and then make Rockman sound for AmpX version 2. Yeah, AmpX, there will only be one version. Because that's why it takes so long. We make one version that all the sounds will be compatible in the future. And by the way, this is about the 6th week of Julian working on the what is it called? Calibration of the circuitry. The circuitry that we have is spot on. We can have killer sounds, you heard some of, but we have to make sure that every AmpX sounds the same. And here comes the obstacle. In the digital world, you have an algorithm, and you have only a converter at the input and one at the output. The algorithm does the same thing, doesn't matter. So the guitar only has like one stage that could color something. The analog circuitry has components. Every component has a tolerance. Some of the components have 5%, others have 20%. And this is why I have this Marshall and this Marshall and this Marshall, because they're all different. And now AmpX shall reproduce this amp and this one exactly as it is. That only works if the foundation is exactly 100%, 99% the same.
So a level playing field, so to say, to build the models on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if something is not the same in this unit or the next unit, the whole thing will get out of balance and will not be the exact same picture. It's like you have lens, you have to have the sharp picture, you have to have the exactly same thing. And this, nobody on this planet has ever done this. We are doing it, and we have to learn how to do it. Then we have to come up with a solution, implement it. But the good thing is AmpX can then even check itself, and if there's a problem, we know there is a problem. It's not like maybe there's a problem. No, we know it. And this is a different. Nobody has ever been where we are now, and you don't see it, but trust me, it's worth doing it, because anything else is like, maybe it's good, maybe it's not so good. And if you have an amp-1, we already succeeded without calibration to manufacture amp-1s. Mercury, I know they sound almost identical. I mean, the silver sounds different than from the Mercury, blah blah blah. But if I have a box, open it, I can get the sound. Maybe I have to dial a little bit more treble on this, because the potentiometer has the biggest tolerance. And with AmpX, it's eliminated, because AmpX will look for all the slightly different differences in every unit, checks itself, calibrates itself, and then, just like an analog synthesizer, digital control, like my Oberheim expander, you have to tune it first. And this is what AmpX is doing by itself. But anyway, this is so this is why we don't need a version 2.
I think it's funny, because we were doing the Rockman stuff today, and Tom Scholz brought on this Rockman thing and a multitude of multi-platinum selling records
came out of this,
and like he was a visionary with his with the Boston sound and everything. And I just told my sister earlier today that I'm coming here and that you are one of those guys.
I'm just crazy because I have this super simple vision.
I really see it that way. Like the AMP1 is a revolution
already.
Yeah,
I know. And people, after 10 years of BluGuitar, I know there are other pedal amps, but can you have a pedal amp? Most of them, they don't have the power. So I mean, there is a few like the Black Star that has the same power supply because they copied us.
Most of them don't have the sound.
And most of them don't have the sound. So there's a lot of things are lacking even after 10 years. Mm-hmm. And guess what? I knew that even back in the days when I came out in 2014. This was not invented in 2014. This was already in existence in 2010. And then refined and refined and refined, and then it saw the light in 2014, being sold in 15. So, and MX is kind of this thing on steroids, which is exponential. This is why I was like having such a bad timing vision. But the vision of what I want is on one level very simple, just like a Rockman. It's simple, like Tom Scholz knew exactly what he wanted because these were his sounds. These were the sounds that he used on his production, and they were state of the art, and they simply worked. And by offering such a product, everybody could be on that level. No mistake. Plug it in, you are a rock star. Yeah. And then everybody became a rock star. And now with my approach on MX, with also the, let's call it bad experience of a Rockman, I try to create a platform that offers sounds that show more of the guitars and more of the player. So in the end, it's not like, oh, this guy plays an MX. No, the MX is just a platform that gives you that huge palette of tones, but in a quality that you can make it more personal. This is a lot of Tom Scholz DNA and Tom Scholz tone, and you can't get rid of that, which is good and bad.
It was his vision. Your vision is to give anyone out there a ton of vintage amps that you don't have access to usually.
Exactly.
I mean, I had my white JTM 50 that we had here.
Yeah.
I know that I will never find another one
like that
in my lifetime.
I know. Because
that's just not gonna happen, you know? They are too rare.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the AMP1, I'm not missing anything when I take that to a gig.
Yeah.
Because I have my Fender sounds, I have my Plexi sounds, I have my JCM 800 sounds. Like, most of the time I play everything on the vintage channel, you know?
Like myself, yeah.
But then you know, let's say you play one song that's a little heavier, you put it in the classic channel.
Yeah.
And what was the video I made a couple of weeks ago? With the Behringer.
Fuss? What is it?
The Behringer Octavia.
Octavia, yeah.
You know, I thought the Octavia, I'd use my white Strat and my white Marshall and do the Hendrix thing, you know?
Yeah. Ganz in Weiß.
Mit einem Blumenstrauß.
Okay, this is only for the Germans. Insider joke.
I thought I wanted to hear it because my Marshall with the rectifier tube, it's sagging really hard.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear the pedal with a more modern,
stable amp that is not as much bouncy.
Yeah.
So you hear more of the pedal.
And I had a really good sound going on with my JTM 50.
Yeah.
Which I've seen a YouTube video where it says that's what a $10,000 amp sounds like.
Sure.
And then you have the AMP1, and it sounds the same or even better than your really high dollar Marshall vintage amp.
And it's very good.
And that's for me is the biggest gift, because I can leave that stuff at home. I can gig with that. I can take that to a studio, and no one's gonna complain.
Absolutely,
no one.
This was actually what I wanted as a level, and this is, you know, after 10 years, I have still the feeling that it is not outdated.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
We
it will never be, because those amps aren't outdated yet.
Yeah, they're the same. And the other day you sent me a super long email by what is this guy doing? Lee Dobbs.
Lee Dobbs, yeah. He
watched your video.
He watched my video, and he actually sent me a love letter about Thomas and the AMP1.
Yeah.
So,
and he's an amp designer himself, right?
Yeah. He builds like vintage tweed amps.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's simply
he makes a living by playing the guitar.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. By the way, there's another guy just like that, is Phil Solo Dallas, who does these pedals, and he came at NEM and gave me one of the pedals because he plays AMP1, and he also makes Plexi amps, and he makes the pedals even for the maestro himself, and he says he plays the AMP1s.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's
for me the thought of, I mean, I trust you 100%, you know. The thought that I'm getting this with
the effects and all the options is
you know,
it's unbelievable.
And when people get sour because when's MX coming out, you know, some comments are just plain stupid for me.
Yeah.
Because I know what you're doing, and I know that it will be the thing.
Yeah,
You know,
and it needs to be right.
Yeah.
And if it's not right, maybe I have some flaws in the way that it operates. You know, I mean, there's so many great digital products with the touch screens, and we don't have that. I have a different philosophy. I have knobs and I have buttons and so on. So people will maybe moan about that because they think watching television is a nicer thing. On the other hand, BluGuitar is tone innovation. And I don't stop before I get the tone right. So at least that I say it's right. And I'm still listening to all the fucking details, and I'm still excited to work as long as it takes to get there.
And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for not rushing this.
Yeah.
And I want to maybe call out the community. Can we please get a crowdfunding for some bodyguards for Thomas and Julian? Because at that stage, nothing can happen to those two, you know?
Yeah, we keep us alive. That's important. Here I see Vagabond Tribe. I hope AmpX comes with the Lichtlärm effects. I think Lichtlärm recently released a pedal that's similar concept. I'm not saying similar to the Masur. Where is it? What's the name of the pedal I'm thinking about? Is it here or is it in the office? It's in the office. It's a pedal that tightens up the low end, you know, something that we have here in the Rockman as well. Precision drive. Where's my precision drive? Pedals all over the place, but precision drive. It's well, maybe next door or so. And the Lichtlärm German guys, they have such a style of pedal just released with a low cut function and things like that. That's something that we can also do. It's of course part of our design structure in AmpX. So how long will it take to build a killer application? With K, that's very German. As long as it takes. Yeah. Hey guys, so I'm thinking about something for the future. It's like once we have it out, there is phase 2, and in phase 2 I will look around if we find some people that can do projects like this. At this point I don't have the money because we have no AmpX sales, so it's just a big hole that sucks up all the money. And but once we start selling the product, we have a budget, and then we can think about toys like that. I'm not promising anything, but I will be open to consider things like that. Okay, what Lichtlärm, Ritual, or the Altar, or the Cassandra distortion, Untiefe, and much more. Brutal metal from the finest. Yeah, these are the, you know, I know what you're talking about. This is the tighten up thing in combination with, I'm not afraid of that. It's all good. Maybe I can team up with the guys even if they are into that. I'm open for that as well. Yep. 10th March was Tom Scholz's birthday, 78. Yeah, that's Tom Scholz's birthday, 78. I play with a drummer that is 77.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not every day, but if you want to see me with a drummer that is 77, maybe 78 by the time we play, it's Jürgen Zöller. And Zöller is the drummer of Bab, and he is still doing it. And look at my website. There's a few gigs. And there's one coming up which is not on my website yet. This is why it's in my brain. But there is one definitely at the 28th of December, which is the last gig of the year. And there's another one on my website. Okay, this is about there are elderly people that are still doing it. And that's another thing that I really like. As long as it's fun for them.
Mm.
And I mean, it is still fun.
I mean, there are, Andy always puts it like this, there are musicians and there are guys who play music.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, a real musician doesn't stop.
When you're a musician, you
yeah.
don't think about retirement.
No,
you know?
it's a...
You are happy when you can walk on stage still.
Yeah.
To play the guitar physically, you know?
Yeah.
Your fingers still work and...
Yeah. And you can express yourself even if you have a few chops less.
Yeah.
For instance, you know Bill Lawrence, the pickup guy? I mean, it's a German guy, you know? I met him and he was a great guitar player. So he gave me his education lessons, ja, mein Junge, in German. And then he came with a pen, sitting down in some lobby of some hotel at some trade show, and he said, you know, this is the formula for this. And I'm not that good at this theory thing. And then when he played, you know, I mean, he was you don't have to have the very complicated wide voicings. If you are smart, you know, you can play triads and change the bass note.
The bass player is doing the stuff.
Yeah. And it's you know, there's ways and you can still enjoy, and it's so good music. So anyway, somebody wants to do a down payment upfront. Yeah, we this is not the point yet, but when we are at the right, shortly before we go bankrupt, we contact you guys and tell you your MX is ready. Just pay some money and we produce yours, maybe. Yeah, here Mario said, look at Pete York or Miller Anderson. Miller Anderson played at Woodstock, and by the way, he plays an amp too. And we met last year in September, end of September. There's an episode where it's a little snippet of me and Miller. And we played together at some Woodstock festival in North Germany. When Woodstock revival was 70 years, or what was it then? How long Woodstock was? 69. So it must...
I'm very bad at math.
Yeah,
I'm
same
not
here.
even trying to...
You know, I'm better at counting, you know, it's like, look at the calendar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
That's
70.
70, 80, 90, 2000, 2010.
50 years of Woodstock.
2020.
See, this was...
50 some years.
Yeah, I think this... Mario, you saved us again. John McLaughlin. Yeah. I'm really excited about John McLaughlin of the old thing. The other day I saw something that he did on the Jeff Beck thing, and I said, oh, well, you could have done better. But then I saw something, just, you know, you zapped through YouTube and stuff. It was so good. It was so fucking good. So, yeah. Because they do have the experience of all the years. Mm-hmm. And if they are in their zone, you know, then it's good. Sometimes things are not so pretty when they try to do things that are not 100% their thing. And that's probably something that is better when you are younger, where you still try to be flexible, you know, like not so stiff as an old fart, but has all the character. Anyway, so we all end there. We play the one, I mean, who was it? The one metal guy. Fuck, my brain. Jeff Waters.
Annihilator.
I remember when we both played Frankfurt, and we are same age. We had great time, and we talked about all the thing. And he said, you know, man, my riffs, they are so busy, and that's my thing. I have to do this. You know. And I said, and you play one note, and it's all it takes. And that's for me the good thing. When I get old, I can still play one note.
Yeah, those metal guys, they have to stay in shape. They have to keep their chops up. And I mean, Jeff Waters, I remember when I think I must have been like 12 years old when I went to the record store and bought Never Neverland, I think it was called, by Annihilator.
Yeah.
And it blew me away. I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was back in the day when you were looking at covers.
Yeah.
In the record store, and you, man, that looks cool. Those guys look metal. Yeah, maybe I'll give that a try.
Yeah.
And they blew me away.
Yeah.
Killer guitar solos, killer riffs.
Yeah, especially I can't play that fast. Especially not the riffs. I don't know how to.
I'm not even
Billy Lorenz aus Köln, exactly. Yeah, because he had all these names, and he had actually all these personalities as well. Being a Köln, from Cologne, Germany, from Kölnischer Jung. Yeah, but he had also this kind of leather dress with
Franzen.
The Western movies. What is it called? The Apaches and Winnetou. Phil Lawrence sometimes dressed like Winnetou. Hilarious. What a character. Great guy. Yeah. And he did great pickups too. Somebody knows his strings. He did strings and pickups, and especially, you know, like a little bit hotter pickups, which was not my personal thing, but and he said he made himself Italian. This guy was a character, as a musician, as a technician, and simply as a person. Unbelievable. Fringe. Okay, now we learn English. Thanks for the lesson. Okay, guys. So, last question, yes or no?
Daniel had a question earlier.
Yeah.
How we get new amps into the AmpX.
Okay, let's explain it. I will do a full episode on this one day, because let me explain the principle. The original amp, or an amp, it could be an amp that we have here as a reference, or it could be something that I make up. I can also create new amps that don't exist. I can combine things I'm free. It's simply like designing a circuitry. The difference on AmpX is we don't have a soldering iron to change a capacitor, to change the effect of a certain filter. We have our remote software that changes the curve of the filter. we don't need the soldering iron to change the capacitor or the resistor that does the filtering. We recreate the result. So, and how to recreate a full amp is, first you have to understand the original amp. Just imagine we would try to recreate this Marshall, which we have done. We have to understand what this amp is doing in every stage, in every tube stage. So there's a 12AX7 or ECC 83, which is a pentode, which has 2 tube stages there. On each tube stage you have anode, grid, cathode, and there's some resistors and some capacitors, and they do something with that little tube stage. So, and we of course analyze, the first thing is what happens to your guitar, because the moment you bridge the inputs, the 1 mega ohm is not true anymore, because there is a load from the other channel by the bridging, which changes the tone. Okay, so this needs to be part of our model. So this is only the very first thing where the cable connects to the amp. So we are aware of that. So only if that is right, we can see what is happening in this first stage, filter-wise, and signal, and clipping, and most of these amps don't have clipping in the very first stage, because 50 volts and there's a few hundred millivolts coming. And then the first stage is more or less just making the signal bigger, and then starts the clipping thing in the other stages. But there are already effects on its way. What I'm saying is, we analyze every little bit of the amp. We have to understand every stage, and then we even have to analyze the interaction of the stages, because if you have more bass here, there is more signal in the lower range that is clipped in the stage afterwards or in the same stage, versus if you don't have that, then this stage doesn't clip yet and another stage clips. And then the next thing is, we also have zagging coming from, the power supply. The power supply is providing the voltage and the current for every stage in the amp. And there are different amps have different way of stiffness or sponginess in different stages. So we have to analyze that as well. And once we understand the amp, we can then recreate the amp, and it's always done in a combination of listening, measuring, listening, measuring, listening, measuring. So, and this goes ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, and focusing on aspects, on parts of the circuitry, and in the end we come very, very close. So, and that's the process how we deal with it. And the other thing is, we have recreated all the settings of all the knobs, and that takes another thing, because these passive tone stacks are interactive. For instance, you dial in more treble, the mids shifts, there's like a mid notch that moves when you turn the bass and things, so things go a little bit crazy. And so we have all the different settings, and then we interpolate those settings, but according to the settings. That's a crazy thing. It's not only like, oh, we have mids and they always are the same mids. No, it depends on, these mids are different depending on that setting of that treble. Or
yeah, that's
so this is the level, and this is why it takes so long. With the result then being that you play it and it sounds and it feels like the original amps. if we want to do that, or if we create an amp, it will feel like a real tube amp. And I'm so happy. At the NAMM show, I had the AmpX, and I had people like Andy Timmons, or basically everybody that came to the booth also playing it themselves, and it's addictive. It is fucking addictive. It is, even for myself, you play that amp, it's like, it feels right. At least to me and to the people that I had plugged into the amp. And that is my goal, because there are tons of great modeling devices that sound great. They can create the noise that the audience will not identify as something different. They will go, oh, I don't hear a difference. But the thing is, what does the sound do with the musician that plays it? Mm-hmm. And if you have seen this episode with Andy Timmons or with Eric Steckel, he never played an AmpX. You know, he came with his guitar, but he played also my guitar, and they all go, It's they felt home. And I mean, you have a similar amp collection like myself. That's home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's,
you don't feel alienated when you plug into an amp one. It gives you exactly
what you know from the real deal,
sound wise and feeling wise.
Yeah.
And that's the
difference.
You know, when I got my amp one, I straight up, I've never played one.
Yeah.
And I bought one blindly.
Yeah.
Because I'm a lazy fuck, basically, you know. And I thought, let's give that little thing a try, you know, like Thomas plays a Strat.
Yeah. You too.
He likes Marshalls, you know. Let's give this thing a try, and maybe, you know, if it gets you halfway even, you know, it's small and you don't have to drag around a lot of stuff. But
it works. I know. Yeah, and basically, it's like the Tom Scholz thing. Once you know what you're doing, the vision is simple, and the rest is just don't stop before you have the result.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I'm sure Tom Scholz was producing the Boston records with the same mentality. I mean, from what I heard, the Boston record was him, the singer, and maybe a drummer.
I think he played drums by himself.
As well. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's
maybe for some songs, I don't know.
But you know, maybe a two-man show. But Tom Scholz had the vision, and then, of course, he spent a lot of time in the studio until he has achieved his vision. But the biggest problem these days is if you don't have, you can have a simple vision, but you have to break it down to realize it. And then that's a problem also. I could hire 10 people, but then they all have a slightly different vision. And then it get out of focus.
Washed up somehow.
Yeah, and this is why BluGuitar is a small company with people that have a lot of interaction so that we all share the same vision. Okay, sometimes we have a discussion about the whole thing, but we can be laser sharp in the end. And the discussion is laser sharp. And this gives laser sharp results. And if you want to make money, you have to think completely differently. Don't waste your time on these details that I'm excited about. You know, make better prices, make more quantity, and focus on that. That's the beauty in itself. I mean, what was Ford? You know, Henry Ford invented the mass production.
Yeah.
That's also something. I'm not saying that's bad. It's a different. It's a different art. It's a different mindset. It's a different philosophy, and I also admire that. I'm just doing my thing my way, and I have to live with it, and people have to live with also with the obstacles that are created by the downside of my philosophy. There's always two sides, you know, but this is how it is. But I find it exciting, you know, Tom Scholz, he left something in the music and in the electronic world, and that's, you know,
I mean,
that's
like
big.
he turned 78 now.
Yeah.
And you know, he has a new pedal in 2025 with his name on it.
Yeah.
You know,
Something is right there.
his DNA. Yeah.
Yeah. And he plays the B3 also. Yeah, keyboards. I knew that. Yeah, and there's good stuff on the record.
Foreplay.
Yeah.
I told you I bought a 61 Hammond A
100.
100.
Yeah.
And we were just doing some stuff on the Leslie last weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, foreplay is on my to-play bucket list.
Okay. Yeah.
It might take me a while, but
Yeah, and this guy has done this in
crazy.
in
There's
his
a
early
YouTube
20s.
video where he
Yeah.
turns on his Hammond and plays
Plays
foreplay.
it. Unbelievable. Yeah, it's very nice.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, we have talented people like him, like Prince. I mean, Prince is another guy where you go, unbelievable. I mean, he sings like crazy. He plays guitar, very tasteful, very good. You know, he's maybe not the shredder of them all, but I mean, you can, his vision, you know, when he, I mean, somebody has to come up with that stuff.
Yeah.
And he plays super tight and he sings fantastic. I mean, I'm just a fan of people that go all the way. That's, yeah.
Yeah, you're doing it right.
I can't do it differently. Yeah.
There will always be people that complain about
Yeah.
deadlines not being met, and there will always be people who appreciate just that.
Yeah, sure. I'm
Yeah.
the guy that has complained about deadlines inside the company. That's a very bizarre thing. I have to motivate the guys that I work with. I have to try to make a mixture of a little bit of pressure, because I can't go, oh yeah, we have all the freedom, love and peace, and you learn the universe until you can implement it into AmpX. Yeah, I know there's some people waiting there. And by the way, the financials also tell me, don't stop, hurry up, but don't rush.
Yeah, you're not sacrificing sound
No.
over money.
Over money, no.
Yeah.
I will never do that. This is if I can't achieve it, it's just like a guitar player. If I know I can't do it, then I can't do it. But at least I try so hard to get my vision. And sometimes I have to hire people with skills that I don't have to realize my vision. And actually I would do the same if somebody asked me, can you play that gig? And it's a jazz gig. I said, me no jazz. You know, go into my phone and look for somebody who can do that job.
It's all because of this guitar.
I played some fake jazz on that guitar and they were excited. But if they wanted more than my ability, I would have been cool in the studio and would say, hey guys, no, don't even, we stop it here. I get you a guy in, he comes in an hour or two or tomorrow, and you have what you need.
I've played some fake jazz licks in my life as a studio musician, and when I hear that stuff now, I go, oh, Jesus Christ. I hope
Nobody listens.
reads the credits.
Yeah. But if, let's put it that way, the responsibility is on the producer. And so you are just the craftsman, and if they force you to keep it, it's okay. And then you can still blame it on the producer, because, you know, it's like, they ask you to do it.
Yeah.
But the moment, yeah.
It's their own fault they hired a rocker to play jazz.
See, I've been.
It's not like, you know, it's not like I come in wearing Birkenstocks.
Guess what I do?
See, now you know why you get hired to play jazz.
You know. So it's real Birkenstocks. This is wait, where's the camera? Yeah, come on. I have to prove this is. I have jazz shoes. Birkenstock. Where's the light? Fuck, I don't get the light in there. Let's try here. Lucas can. Well, you know, this is real Birkenstock. Now we can see Birkenstock. Yeah. And we all know the jokes about the jazz guys, you know.
Do you bring bananas to a gig? Sometimes?
Huh?
Do you take bananas to a gig? That's a jazz thing, right?
That's
or,
a jazz thing.
have
Yeah.
like pistachios
Yeah.
sitting on your amp.
No. We talked about the 80s, and we talked about the way I dressed as a pop musician back in the 80s, pop rock musician. These days I have probably the jazz attitude. I simply change my shoes. I don't change anything else. I come straight off the office, pack my 60-run Strat, which actually has been in my gig bag from the last gig, and I just took it down for today. And on Friday, I don't change anything. I go on stage. I just put on my stage shoes, and then I have fun with music. That's a probably jazz attitude.
I have to think of Jürgen Rath.
Yeah, same.
He had some great stage shoes, like those white cowboy boots.
Yeah. Oh, ouch.
And he could talk for hours about the advantages of the pointy shoes to hit the foot switches better on the pedal board. He was such a great guy.
Ah, yeah, Jürgen, the one and only. Okay, guys, I think this was some insights into the history of the Tom Scholz Rockman, some 80s stuff. Yeah, and I enjoy really much to do it with Manuel, because we share some things, and I know that we understand very well how we see things. And so, yeah, he got excited about something. I was excited too, but got turned off again. And so I thought this is a nice, controversially situation with like similar and still different point of views, and that might help you. Jeff Beck also wears crazy shoes on stage. Yeah, we all have our habits. Let me, where is it? No, I throw it there. Let me finish this episode with the same jacket we had in the intro. Eye of the Tiger. Or the Leppard. So, and next week we will have some blues here, and guess what? Probably have to dress differently. Okay, thanks for joining in. Thanks, Manuel, and see you guys soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.